What if I told you you've been thinking about your biggest money problems all wrong? See, we're taught to approach our finances like a game of chess, a game of pure skill, where every piece is right there on the board. We think if we just analyze long enough and gather enough information, we'll find that one single perfect move. But the truth is, your most important financial decisions, choosing a career, buying a house, investing your savings, deciding when to sell, they aren't like chess at all. They're like poker. You're making high-stakes bets with incomplete information. You can make the absolute right move and still lose the hand to bad luck. And you can make a terrible move and get bailed out by a lucky card on the river. If you're waiting for certainty before you make your next big money move, you are quietly losing years of progress. That anxiety keeps you stuck on the same questions for months, maybe even years. Should I switch jobs? Is now the time to invest, or should I wait for the crash? Do I pay off all my debt first or start investing? The truth is, the people who build real, sustainable wealth aren't the ones who can predict the future. They're the ones who use a better decision-making process. In this video, I'm going to show you a 4-step process, borrowed from a world champion poker player, that will teach you how to win when you can't see all the cards. If you care about financial freedom, long-term investing, and building real wealth with less stress, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. This channel is all about calm, evidence-based money strategy for adults who are done with all the hype and headlines. We're about to get into a framework that will completely change how you see risk and reward. Let's do it. If you're in your late 30s, 40s, or 50s, you've probably felt this quiet, nagging pressure that you should know better with money by now. You've lived through market cycles, navigated job changes, maybe bought a home or started a family. You have experience. So when a big financial decision comes up, like what to do with a bonus or whether to refinance, feeling frozen is incredibly frustrating. It can even feel a little shameful. Why is this still so hard? Well, this feeling has a name. It's financial analysis paralysis, and it comes from something called the certainty trap. You tell yourself, I'll make a decision when I'm sure. You just need to do a little more research. Watch one more video, read one more article, or wait for the market to send a clearer signal. But here's the hard truth about money. Sure almost never shows up. The market is a chaotic system of millions of people making emotional choices. Inflation zigs when economists swear it will zag. A stable industry gets disrupted overnight. While you're patiently waiting for that moment of perfect clarity, the world keeps moving. And the cost of waiting is invisible, but it is massive. Years of potential compound growth, of a higher income from a better job, or of freedom from high-interest debt just quietly slip through your fingers. Doing nothing feels safe, but it's one of the riskiest financial moves you can make. Here's the mental shift that breaks you out of that trap. Every single money choice you face is a bet. Most of us are betting constantly. We just don't realize it. Doing nothing? That's a bet that the status quo is the best possible path forward. Keeping all your savings in cash? That's a bet that the loss of buying power from inflation is less risky than the market's ups and downs. Staying in a job you've outgrown? That's a bet that the comfort of what you know outweighs the potential for more income and more fulfilling work. So the question isn't, should I bet? It's, am I betting with a smart, repeatable process, or am I just reacting to fear and gut feelings? That's where the book Thinking in Bets by former World Series of Poker champion Annie Duke completely changed how I look at all of this. It gives you the tools to move from paralysis to confident action, even when the future is foggy. Moving forward, life is poker, not chess. We're all taught to treat big decisions, especially money decisions, like chess. In chess, all the information is right there. There's no hidden info and basically no luck. If you lose, it's because your opponent outplayed you. There's always a theoretically best move, and your job is to find it. This is how we think we should be making money decisions. But the real world doesn't work that way. Most of our high-stakes choices are way closer to poker. In poker, you're dealing with critical hidden information, what cards your opponents are holding, and you're dealing with luck, the next card off the deck. You can play a hand with mathematical perfection and still lose to someone who gets lucky, or you can play like a fool and get rewarded for it. Sound familiar? Money is the exact same thing. Investing, buying a home, negotiating your salary, these are all poker games, not chess problems. You're always working with partial information. You don't know what interest rates will do. You can't predict the next market crash, and you don't know if that key person at your new job is going to quit next month. You're forced to make the best possible move with the limited information you have. This brings up two huge ideas from thinking in bets that are essential for breaking out of that certainty trap. The first is a toxic habit called resulting. Resulting is when you judge how good a decision was based only on the outcome. For example, let's say you do your research and invest in a globally diversified low-cost index fund. A month later, the market tanks 20%. The voice in your head screams, "You idiot, that was a terrible decision." But was it? Or did you make a high-quality, long-term decision and just run into some short-term bad luck? A good process can still lead to a painful result. On the flip side, if your friend YOLO'd their savings into a meme stock and it tripled, does that mean they had a good process? No. They made a terrible decision and got bailed out by pure luck. If you want to get better, you have to separate the decision process from the outcome. The second powerful idea is to use the question "wanna bet" as a mental tool. The next time you catch yourself saying, "I think the housing market is going to cool down soon," or "I'm pretty sure this stock is a safe bet," just pause and ask yourself, "Wanna bet? How much would you actually wager on that belief?" This simple question is like a truth serum. It forces you to go from a fuzzy feeling to an honest assessment. It makes you quantify how sure you really are, instead of hiding behind comfortable phrases like, "I think it'll probably be fine." This is the first step to thinking in probabilities, which is the heart of this whole strategy. To stop relying on gut feelings and screaming headlines, you need a repeatable system. A good process won't guarantee a good outcome every single time, but over a lifetime of decisions, it will dramatically stack the odds in your favor. I've adapted the core ideas from thinking in bets into a simple 4-step process. You can use this for pretty much any financial crossroads you face. The 4 steps are: 1. Define the real question. You have to get super precise about what you're actually trying to solve. 2. Map the possible outcomes. Instead of predicting one future, you'll map out a range of them. 3. Calculate the downside. You'll focus on the worst-case scenario and ask if you can survive it. 4. Use the 70% rule. This is your trigger for taking action and breaking out of analysis paralysis. Think of this as your personal decision checklist. It shifts you from asking a useless, anxiety-inducing question like, "Is this risky?" to asking a much more powerful one. Given my situation, what are the likely outcomes, and can I handle the worst-case scenario? This process is what separates amateurs from pros, in poker and in finance. The amateur is obsessed with being right. The professional is obsessed with having the best process. By the way, if you're finding this helpful, do me a favor and comment the word "more" down below. It really helps me know what's actually connecting with you. In the next chapter, we're going to get practical. We'll break down each of these 4 steps and then apply them to the real-world questions that keep people up at night. This is where the ideas become actions that can directly impact your net worth. Almost every bad money decision starts with a bad question. If your question is fuzzy, your thinking will be fuzzy, and your answer will just be a mess of emotions. A good process starts with clarity. Most people ask something like, "Is this a good investment?" Or "Should I buy a house now?" These sound like smart questions, but they're dangerously incomplete. A good investment for a 25-year-old is totally different than for a 65-year-old. A better, more professional question might be, Given my 20-year time horizon and my high tolerance for risk, is putting my next $1,000 into a global stock index fund the best use of this money compared to paying down my 4% mortgage? See what just happened? The question went from a vague philosophical problem to a solvable one. A well-defined question has a few key parts. It specifies whose situation it is, your time horizon, your risk tolerance. Finance is personal. It clarifies the amount, the next $1,000, not your entire life savings. This lowers the emotional stakes. It focuses on a relative choice. Is this the best move compared to other specific options? It's not good versus bad in a vacuum. It's option A versus option B. Here's a rule you can use right away. If you can't state the decision you're facing in one clear sentence, you aren't ready to decide. Stop researching and start refining your question. Let's look at a couple more transformations. Fuzzy question, should I pay off my student loans? Better question, for the next year, will my net worth be higher if I put an extra $500 a month toward my 6% student loans, or if I invest that $500 in my retirement account that I expect to return about 8% on average? Fuzzy question, should I quit my job? Better question, to hit my goal of a 20% income bump in the next 3 years, is it a better bet to accept this new job offer with a higher salary but less stability, or stay where I am and try to negotiate a raise? Crafting a good question is half the battle. It forces you to think about trade-offs and probabilities right from the start. Once your question is crystal clear, you have to resist the urge to make one single prediction. You're not a fortune teller. The goal isn't to predict the future, it's to map out the range of possible futures. For any big decision, grab a piece of paper and sketch out 3 buckets: best case, most likely case, and worst case. This isn't about precise math, it's about making the potential futures real. Let's use our earlier example. Investing $1,000 in an index fund versus keeping it in a high-yield savings account for the next 10 years. First, for investing in the index fund, best case. The market rips into a new bull run, delivering 12 and 15% average returns. Your money grows way faster than you expected. You feel like a genius. Most likely case. The market does its usual thing, a mix of good years, flat years, and at least one scary downturn. But over the decade, it averages 7 to 9% and ends up way ahead of where it would be in cash. Worst case, you invest right before a nasty bear market. The market drops hard and stays down or goes sideways for years. It might take 5 to 7 years just to get back to even. Now, do the same for the alternative, keeping the $1,000 in cash. Best case, you have a big emergency within the year, and having that liquid cash saves you from going into credit card debt. Or the market crashes 50% and you have the cash ready to deploy at the bottom. Most likely case, the money sits there safely, earning a little interest. But inflation runs higher than that interest rate, so your money is quietly losing purchasing power every single year. Worst case, the market goes on a tear and you're paralyzed by the fear of buying at the top. You miss out on years of growth and finally give in and invest at a much higher price later on, driven by FOMO. This simple exercise is incredibly powerful. It pulls you out of the black and white thinking that causes so much stress. You're no longer asking, what will happen? You're asking, what could happen, and what's the likelihood of each path? This is the step our optimistic brains want to skip, but it's the step that guarantees your financial survival. Here, you have to look the worst-case scenario right in the eye. The key question is this: if I'm wrong, what happens? For each option, you have to assess the real damage of a bad outcome. Ask yourself, if this goes horribly wrong, what's the actual damage in dollars? More importantly, what's the damage to my stress levels, my lifestyle, and my big goals? Is the damage survivable? Can I recover from it? And how long would that take? This is where your personal situation is everything. A specific investment could be a brilliant risk for a 25-year-old with a stable job, but a totally reckless gamble for a 45-year-old with 2 kids and a mortgage. Let's go back to our scenarios. The worst case for investing $1,000 was a big market downturn. What's the damage? You lose, say, $400 on paper. It feels terrible, but does it change your life? If you have a 20-year time horizon, the answer is no. The downside is volatile but survivable. You don't have to sell, you just wait for the recovery. Now think about the downside of keeping a big balance on a 24% interest credit card. The downside here isn't a possibility, it's a mathematical certainty. That debt will grow relentlessly, acting like an anchor dragging your net worth down. The damage is guaranteed. Picture it like this. For any decision, you have a red box for potential downside and a green box for potential upside. The amateur tries to find decisions with no red box, which is impossible. The pro just makes sure the red box is small and survivable while the green box is way bigger in comparison. This is called asymmetric risk, looking for bets where the potential gain is huge compared to the potential loss. Before any big money move, you have to be able to say, honestly, I've looked at the worst-case scenario and I can live with it. It won't break me. If you can't say that, the decision is off the table, no matter how good the upside looks. If you wait for 100% certainty before you act, you will almost always be too late. The market will have already moved, the promotion will have gone to someone else, and inflation will have eaten another chunk of your savings. This is the core of the paralysis problem. To break free, you need a threshold for action. Here's the simple but powerful rule I use. I move when I am about 70% confident in my decision, and I've confirmed the downside is survivable. Now, 70% confident isn't a precise calculation. It's a gut check that confirms you've done the work. 1. You have defined your question with clarity. Check. 2. You have mapped the possible outcomes, best, likely, and worst. Check. 3. You have calculated the downside and confirmed it won't derail your financial life. Big check. Once you hit those 3 checkpoints, you're probably at that 70% mark. At this point, more research isn't being prudent. It's just a form of procrastination, and it's an expensive one. You're basically betting that more waiting will improve your choice while ignoring the very real costs of that delay. This rule is not about being reckless. It only applies after you've done the most important step, the downside calculation. It's a tool for overcoming indecision when the risks are manageable. It is not a license to gamble your emergency fund or take on a mortgage that only works if everything goes perfectly. Once those boxes are checked, you act. A good decision now is better than a perfect decision that never happens. Over a lifetime, this bias toward timely, well-reasoned action is what builds wealth, and more importantly, a life with more freedom. All right, let's run one of the most common paralyzing questions through our 4-step process. Should I invest a lump sum now or wait for the market to crash? Step 1. Define the real question. Given my 20-year retirement timeline and a fully funded emergency fund, is it better for my long-term net worth to investment? My $10,000 bonus into a global index fund now, or hold it in cash and wait for the market to drop by at least 20%? Step 2. Map the outcomes. Option A, invest now. Best case, 10%. The market keeps climbing. You catch great returns immediately. Most likely, 70%. The market has its usual ups and downs, but over 20 years, your investment grows substantially. Worst case, 20%. You invest right before a big crash, say 30-40% drop, and your account is underwater for a few years. Option B, wait for the crash. Best case. A crash happens soon, you perfectly time the bottom, and you buy at a huge discount. Most likely, no clear crash happens. The market goes up or sideways, and you sit in cash, paralyzed. watching prices rise and never feeling sure it's the right time. Worst case, the market goes on a multi-year bull run. Your cash loses value to inflation and you eventually invest at prices way higher than today's out of sheer regret. Step 3. Calculate the downside. Invest now. The downside is a significant but temporary paper loss. With a 20-year timeline, a crash isn't a risk of permanent loss. It's a guarantee of temporary volatility. The key is you won't be forced to sell. Your lifestyle is fine. The downside is survivable. Wait for the crash. The downside is a permanent loss of time in the market. You can never get back those years of potential growth. It's a quieter risk, but it can be far more damaging to your wealth than a temporary dip. Step 4. The 70% rule. You've clarified the question, mapped the outcomes, and seen that the downside of investing now is survivable stress, while the downside of waiting is a likely permanent loss of growth. All the evidence points to time in the market beats timing the market. You can say, I'm at least 70% confident that investing now is the better long-term bet. You don't have to be 100% sure. So you act. Maybe you invest the whole $10,000, or maybe you manage the emotional side by dollar cost averaging, investing $2,000 a month for 5 months. That's still a 70% rule decision. You're acting, not waiting for a perfect moment that will never come. Here's another classic that freezes people. Should I aggressively pay off my debt or should I start investing? Over the next 5 years, what will improve my financial health more? Using an extra $400 a month to attack my $10,000 credit card debt at 22% interest, or investing that $400 a month while making minimum payments? You wipe out the high-interest debt in about 2 years, saving thousands in interest. You feel a massive psychological weight lift and then redirect that $400+ of payment to investing. It takes a bit longer, maybe 3 years, but the debt is gone. You've still saved a ton in interest. A job loss forces you to pause, but the debt is still way smaller than it would have been otherwise. Option B, invest instead. Best case, the stock market has an unbelievable run, returning over 22% a year. Your investments somehow outpace your debt. This is extremely unlikely. Most likely, your portfolio earns a normal 8 to 10% a year. Meanwhile, your debt is compounding at 22%. You're earning 10% while paying 22%. Your net worth is actively going backward every single month. Worst case, the market goes down or is flat. Your investments lose money while your 22% debt continues to grow larger. Step 3. Calculate the downside. Pay off debt. The downside is an opportunity cost. You miss out on potential market gains. It feels bad, but it's not a direct financial loss. Invest instead. The downside is a near mathematical certainty of losing money. That 22% interest is a guaranteed negative return. It's a massive headwind your investments are incredibly unlikely to beat. The downside is severe and almost guaranteed. Ask yourself the poker question. Wanna bet that my investments will reliably beat a 22% guaranteed return? The answer is a loud, clear no. Paying off high-interest debt is like getting a guaranteed, risk-free return equal to the interest rate. It's the best deal in finance. Here, the decision is far more than 70% clear. You prioritize the high-interest debt, eliminate it, and then turn that powerful cash flow toward investing. Money decisions aren't just about stocks. Your income is your single most powerful wealth-building engine. Let's apply this to a career move scenario. You make $75,000 a year in a stable, comfortable job where you're not really learning anything. You get a new job offer for $95,000 at a fast-growing company, but the role has more pressure and some risk. Step 1. Define the real question. Over the next 5 years, which is the better bet for my career growth and income? Staying at my stable $75K job or moving to the new $95K role that's riskier but has more growth potential? Step 2. Map the outcomes. Option A, take the new job. Best case, you crush it. The company does great and you get big raises, pushing your income over $100K in a few years. You gain valuable new skills. Most likely, it's tough. There's a steep learning curve and some stress, but you handle it. Your income and skills end up clearly higher than if you'd stayed. Worst case, the job isn't a good fit. You're managed out or leave within 18 months and have to job search again, maybe with a small income gap. Best case, your company has a great year and you get an unexpected promotion. Most likely, you get your standard 2 to 3% annual raise. The job stays stable, but your skills get stale and your pay falls behind what the market offers. Worst case, your stable company has layoffs. Because your role hasn't grown, you're let go and find it hard to compete for new jobs with outdated skills. Step 3. Calculate the downside. This is where the downside calculation is everything. Ask, can I handle the worst-case scenario of the new job failing? If you have a solid 3 to 6 month emergency fund and a strong professional network, the downside is probably a few stressful months of job searching. It's uncomfortable, but it's survivable. But if you're living paycheck to paycheck with no savings, that exact same move becomes way more dangerous. The downside in that case might not be survivable without severe consequences. Step 4. The 70% rule. Assuming you have the emergency fund and the downside is survivable, you look at the scenarios. The new job offers a big step up in income and skills with a manageable risk. Staying put offers comfort, but its own worst-case scenario, stagnation, is sneaky and dangerous. A job change is a bet on yourself. If you're at least 70% confident you can handle the challenge and the reward is worth the risk, this framework gives you the logical green light to make the leap. You don't need a crystal ball to build wealth. You don't need to wait for a feeling of 100% certainty that's never going to come. What you need is a repeatable process to navigate the uncertainty of life. High-stakes poker teaches us that every important choice is a bet. The goal isn't to get every hand right. The goal is to focus on the quality of your process, knowing that a good process leads to better results over time. The process you learned today is simple, but it's not easy. It takes discipline. Let's recap it. 1. Define the real question. 2. Map the possible outcomes. 3. Calculate the downside and make sure it's survivable. 4. Use the 70% rule to take action. I want you to try this on just one, financial decision you're stuck on right now. Walk through these 4 steps. Now, I want to hear from you. In the comments below, drop one money decision you're wrestling with. You don't have to share personal numbers, just the general dilemma. If there's enough interest, I'll make a follow-up video where I walk through real viewer decisions using this exact 4-step framework. Remember to join the Trip2 Wealth Command Center, a Google Sheets system that tracks your income, spending, and net worth in one place. It acts as your strategy hub, highlighting money leaks, growth opportunities, and the power of small compounding changes. When you can clearly see your progress, staying motivated becomes effortless. Check the early access link below. The tool is launching soon. This video is for educational purposes only and does not constitute investment advice. It is important to conduct thorough research and consult with financial professionals before making any investment decisions. The value of investments can fluctuate, and past performance is not indicative of future results. If you found this video helpful and you want more calm, analytical content on money, investing, and building wealth with a clear head, hit that subscribe button and check out the other video. I've linked on the screen about overcoming financial anxiety. It goes perfectly with what you just learned. Thanks for watching and see you soon.